August 6, 1945, on the island of Tinian, in the Pacific, the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay is loaded with a weapon never used before. At 2:45 a.m., it takes off with Colonel Paul Tibbets and his crew, ready to carry out an unprecedented mission to head toward Hiroshima and drop the first atomic bomb in history. At 8 a.m., the Enola Gay flies over Hiroshima at an altitude of 30,000 feet. That morning, life in the city goes on as usual. Its 340,000 residents wake up, head to work, and walk their children to school. It's an ordinary summer morning. Most have no idea they're living their final moments. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, drops from the belly of the aircraft. 43 seconds later, at exactly 8:16 a.m., it explodes about 2,000 feet above the city center. The temperature at the blast point reaches nearly 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Within seconds, around 80,000 people are killed instantly. By the end of the year, the death toll will climb to about 140,000. 3 days later, Nagasaki would be hit as well. But why did the United States drop these bombs? To understand that, we have to go back 6 years to the moment when the idea of this weapon first began to take shape. (1939) Europe erupts in flames. Hitler's Germany invades Poland. Within days, France and Britain strike back, declaring war on Nazi Germany. Across the Atlantic, the United States watches in silence. Still haunted by the Great War, America refuses to shed blood for another European conflict. President Roosevelt declares the nation neutral. As Europe descends into chaos, the U.S. keeps its distance, unaware that soon, the war will come knocking at its own door. Everything changes on December 7th, 1941. On that day, the Japanese Air Force launches a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. In just a few hours, 2,400 American soldiers are killed, and the Pacific Fleet is left in ruins. The next day, December 8, President Franklin Roosevelt declares war on Japan. 3 days later, Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, Japan's allies, declare war on the United States. America is now fighting on two fronts, against Japan in the Pacific and against Germany in Europe. It's in this context that the most secret project in American history is born. But this story actually begins earlier, in August 1939, just weeks before war erupts in Europe. At that time, a small group of physicists who had fled to the United States were growing concerned. These men, Leo Szilard, Edward Teller, and Eugene Wigner, had escaped Nazi Germany. They knew the strength of German science, and they also knew something very few people did. In December 1938, two German chemists, Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann, made a groundbreaking discovery in their Berlin laboratory. They managed to split the atom of uranium by bombarding it with neutrons. The process released an enormous amount of energy and, crucially, more neutrons that could go on to split other atoms. It was a chain reaction. For Szilard and his colleagues, the implications were terrifying. If controlled, this reaction could create limitless energy, but if unleashed, it could lead to an explosion of unimaginable power, one bomb capable of wiping out an entire city. And that discovery had been made in Germany by German scientists under Adolf Hitler's regime. Szilard was convinced the Nazis would try to build this weapon, and if they succeeded first, no one could stop them. He knew he had to warn the US government, but who would listen to an unknown scientist? Szilard needed a name that carried weight, someone the president would listen to. He turned to Albert Einstein. Einstein, himself a refugee from Germany, was hesitant. He was a pacifist, but Szilard persuaded him. If Hitler got the bomb first, it would mean the end of everything. On August 20, 1939, Einstein signed a letter addressed to President Roosevelt. The message was clear. Recent scientific breakthroughs made it possible to create extremely powerful bombs based on uranium fission. Germany had already stopped selling uranium and controlled the Czech mines, a sign it might be working on such a weapon. The United States needed to act fast. Roosevelt received the letter in October 1939. He ordered the creation of a committee to study the issue. Research began, but progress was slow. America was still at peace, and the idea of an atomic bomb seemed like science fiction. Then came Pearl Harbor, in December 1941. Everything changed. America was now at war, and the threat of a Nazi bomb was suddenly very real. The race for the atomic weapon had truly begun. September 1942. One man is handed the key to a project that could rewrite the history of war. General Leslie Groves, the man who oversaw the construction of the Pentagon, is given free rein, codename Manhattan. His mission: build the first atomic bomb before Nazi Germany. The scale of the effort is unprecedented. Over 130,000 people recruited, a budget soaring to $2 billion, about 1% of all U.S. production in 1945. 3 secret sites are established. At Oak Ridge, massive plants enrich uranium. At Hanford, reactors produce plutonium. And in Los Alamos, deep in the mountains of New Mexico, a team of scientists designs the bomb itself. Secrecy is absolute. Workers have no idea what they are building. Even the scientists know only parts of the project. Everyone works in isolation, unaware of what others are doing. To lead Los Alamos, Groves chooses an unusual man, Robert Oppenheimer, 38, a theoretical physicist who has never led a project and never won a Nobel Prize, yet a genius capable of understanding every aspect of the challenge. From April 1943 onward, Oppenheimer gathers the world's top physicists: Enrico Fermi, Niels Bohr, Hans Bethe, Richard Feynman. Many are European refugees who fled Nazism. For them, this is more than a scientific project. It's a matter of survival. For 3 years, they work day and night on an incredibly complex problem: how to trigger an explosive chain reaction, how to assemble enough fissile material before the bomb disassembles itself prematurely. 2 designs are developed. The first, Little Boy, uses enriched uranium. Its mechanism is simple: fire one mass of uranium into another at high speed to reach critical mass. The second, Fat Man, uses plutonium. Its mechanism is far more complex: compress a plutonium sphere from all sides simultaneously with absolute precision. By early 1945, the prototypes are ready. But the world has changed. On May 8, Germany surrenders. Hitler is dead. The threat that justified the Manhattan Project no longer exists. Yet the project continues. In the Pacific, the war against Japan rages on. Each conquered island costs thousands of American lives. And now the United States holds a weapon capable of ending that war. Manhattan was not just a scientific triumph. It was the beginning of an era in which humanity held the power over its own end. By midsummer 1945, 3 years after the Manhattan Project began, the scientists at Los Alamos are finally ready. They've built their plutonium bomb, but no one knows if it will actually work. The mechanism is so complex, so precise, that a single flaw could make everything fail. There's only one way to find out: they have to test it. On July 16, 1945, just before dawn, a metal tower stands in the middle of the New Mexico desert. At the top sits a spherical device the scientists call the Gadget, the first plutonium bomb in history. Miles away, inside concrete bunkers, the teams wait and watch. The tension is extreme. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientific director, smokes nonstop. He's barely slept for days. For him and for everyone here, this test is the result of 3 years of work. And no one truly knows if the bomb will work. The countdown begins. Every second brings them closer to a decisive moment: proof the bomb is ready, or total failure. At 5:29 a.m., it happens. A flash unlike anything ever seen lights up the entire desert. It's so bright, it turns night into day in an instant. Beneath the tower, the sand heats so fast it vaporizes and turns into glass. President Harry Truman, who took over after Roosevelt's death in April, now faces a terrible choice. He has a weapon that could end the war without a single American soldier setting foot in Japan, but using it means killing tens of thousands of Japanese civilians in seconds. Men, women, children, people who never chose this war. Truman turns to his advisors. Opinions are split. Some generals believe Japan is already collapsing and will surrender soon anyway. Others argue the US must show the world, especially the Soviet Union, which is starting to worry Washington, exactly what America can do. And some simply say, after spending $2 billion to build this weapon, not using it would make no sense. In the end, the decision is made: the bomb will be used, not on isolated military targets, but on cities, to maximize the psychological shock, to force an immediate surrender. 2 targets are chosen: Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So why Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Because those 2 strikes weren't random at all. They were the result of military pressure, political strategy, scientific motives, and strict logistics. Japan had refused the Allies' demand for unconditional surrender in late July 1945. which meant the US was preparing for a full-scale invasion later that year, an operation expected to cause hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides. Washington wanted the war ended immediately. Hiroshima was a pristine military hub with troop headquarters, factories, and a dense urban layout, ideal for showing what a uranium bomb could actually do. Nagasaki, originally a backup target after Kokura, became the objective when Kokura was hidden under clouds and smoke. The US also wanted to send a message to the Soviet Union, which entered the war on August 8, 1945. America was the new dominant power and controlled the most devastating weapon ever created. Dropping the two bombs also gave real-world data on two different designs, Little Boy and Fat Man. Japan had been warned through the Potsdam Declaration, but never about the nature of the weapon. Inside the US, there were objections. Scientists behind the Frank Report and Szilard petition pushed for a non-lethal demonstration, but leaders rejected the idea. The bomb also served as justification for the massive cost of the Manhattan Project. Timing mattered too. The bombs were ready, weather windows were tight, and the US wanted to act before the Soviets gained too much influence in Asia.